Texas Republicans find their strength. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is another Declaration of Truth from your host, Terry A. Hurlbut. Last week, the Republican Party of Texas held their first in-person convention since 2018 in Houston. They passed 2 resolutions and a complete and comprehensive platform that has the mainstream media half laughing, half shuddering. We're going to talk about the important things that are in that platform, and stick with me because I intend to show that they are actually engaging in some important civilizational thinking at a state level. Before I begin, I do want to shout out to the sponsor of this video, which is Conservative News and Views. Link in the description. Be sure to check out the awesome CNAV Store. Scroll down near the bottom for that link. Lots of good merchandise there, including this t-shirt. Rhino hunting. That might become relevant as I go on. All right, ladies and gentlemen, settle down. The detailed analysis of the Texas Republican Party platform of 2022 will now begin. Technically, the Texas Republican Party platform is only a report of the platform committee. The party delegates still have to finish voting on it, just as a union local must vote on a tentative agreement when they go on strike, and then they need to end the strike. But the report, for all intents and purposes, is the platform, because almost never does a platform or any plank of it go to a vote and then fail of ratification. I've left a link in the description to a copy of the platform on CNAV itself, so you can follow along. Now, we've had a lot of breathless reporting about that platform from the Texas Tribune, there's 2 reports there, NPR, Newsweek, and Axios. In addition, the Texas Nationalist Movement posted a celebratory bulletin on its own site. Now, that last report is the most telling, because it shows that the most important platform plank was not the plank that generated all of the negative buzz in the mainstream media. Possibly the most important single plank, plank 33, state sovereignty, calls for nullifying any federal law that infringes upon the 10th Amendment rights of Texans and legislating a referendum on Texas independence. Plank 224 specifically calls for setting up a referendum vote in a fall 2023 general election. Thus, the Texas Republican Party now calls for passing H.R. 1359, the Texas Independence Referendum Act, or something like it. Now, before I tell you what happened to that bill, I need to define a uniquely Texas verb, one of several. To chub. Texans say they will chub a bill. Congress critics in Washington, D.C. say they will pigeonhole it. Both words mean the same thing, to kill a bill in committee. In this case, without even the courtesy of a hearing. That's what you got from the Texas House State Affairs Committee. Well, since then, most of the chubbers lost their primaries. The Texas Nationalist Movement took credit for that and for planks 33 and 224. Now, they're calling on their membership to move the rest of Texas. Moving right along, delegates cried a resounding boo on Senator John Cornyn, the rhino from Texas, and a member of that gang of 20 that wrote the Senate gun deal. More concretely, Plank 32 calls upon the Texas legislature to repeal and or nullify the National Firearms Act of 1934 and the Gun Control Act of 1968. Then it calls it to pass constitutional carry in Texas by eliminating a provision in the Texas Constitution that allows for state gun control laws. And then to nullify any other federal gun laws, support reciprocity, meaning recognizing carry permits from other states and encouraging those other states to recognize Texas carry permits, and let any license to carry holders carry their weapons wherever off-duty or retired law enforcement officers may carry theirs. That last would be subject only to the wishes and desires of private property owners, meaning if you want to set up want your house to be a gun-free zone, fine. Nothing in the Texas Republican platform will say you can't. But there aren't going to be any public restrictions on a license to carry holder. It'll be very much like how it is in Utah, as a matter of fact. The platform also carries a resolution rebuking the 10 Republican members of the Gang of 20 and rejecting the Senate gun deal in its entirety. Now I teed this up to start with, so you will get two of the most important parts of the platform and the ones everyone's talking about. Now I'm going to go back to the beginning and talk about the 10 guiding principles the Texas Republicans put into their platform. All these principles follow logically from civilizational thinking. They include the laws of nature and nature's God, and strict construction of and adherence to the original language and intent of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. And in addition, the sanctity of human life, from fertilization to natural death, with an explicit acknowledgement of God. Respecting sovereignty as applicable to individuals, the state, make that the Republic of Texas, and the United States. Limiting government to constitutional enumerated powers. Personal accountability and responsibility. Self-sufficient families. And defining marriage as one man and one woman. Freedom of choice in education, the inalienable right of self-defense, free enterprise, and honoring those who serve, presumably in the military. In the interest of preservation of the Constitution, the platform contains Plank 22, a no-nonsense statement of constitutional duty. It creates a new felony of dereliction of constitutional duty. Furthermore, it grants legal standing to any person suffering an injury from violations of the U.S. and Texas Constitutions. They would then be able to sue for money damages, injunctive relief, or both. From those 10 principles flow everything else in that platform. But before I go on, I want to shout out to another sponsor, BitNext. This is your replacement for Zoom, Slack, the Google G Suite, Microsoft Office 365, Dropbox, WeTransfer, and Chili Piper, among others. Unlike any of them, BitNext protects your content and conversations so well even the administrators can't see it. So this is your channel for secure comms, conferencing, cloud storage, and file sharing. Best of all, everything is back-end, so you don't even need client software. If you have a browser, you can use BitNext. Follow the link and give them a try. 28 days free of charge. You can't beat that with a stick. Now, okay, we've talked about the principles. Now we get to their implementation. The Texas Republicans proposed 6 amendments to the U.S. Constitution. I'll tell you up front, I cannot support them all. They are, in this order: term limits of 12 years for all state and federal elective offices, fixing the membership of the United States Supreme Court at 9 members, repealing the 16th Amendment, which provides for taxing incomes without apportionment and without regard to any census, repealing the 17th Amendment and going back to legislative choosing appointment of state senators. Of United States senators, rather. Clarifying the first section of the 14th Amendment to require, as a condition of birthright citizenship, that a person have one U.S. citizen biological parent, and making English the official language of the United States and one of not more than 2 official languages of any state. Now, presumably, the stricter presidential term limit would stay in force after the passage of the first of those proposed amendments that I just mentioned. but I still have a problem with it, which is term limits create an instant lame duck caucus. Now, to illustrate the problem with lame ducks, I want to tell you a story. 40-odd years ago, here in my town of Ashland, Virginia, Walmart bought a piece of land and proposed to build one of their big box stores on it. Now, at the time, all that Ashland had were little mom and pop stores. Every proprietor knew everybody else in town and asked after them. And most important, everybody had a job running a respectable business or working for one. Now, along comes Walmart. They bought the land all right, but they needed a big fat zoning adjustment to let them build anything as big as their store. Now, they made a big thing about being able to get for people certain things that the little mom and pop stores couldn't get. But the people ginned up a brilliant campaign against the store. And when town council wouldn't listen, the people voted them all out of office. Now, back then, the town held their elections in May. So in May, they voted the entire council and the mayor of Ashland out of office. Well, guess what? The final vote on the zoning adjustment that would let Walmart build took place after the election, but before the new council was to take office. Well, you can guess what happened. They called the roll to vote. The townsfolk, all in attendance, held up signs saying, "Please vote no!" And the council voted yes, which is why we have a Walmart and don't have most of these mom and pop stores anymore. Oh, you see a few of them on Railroad Avenue, but most of them are all gone. Did the outgoing town council get the "we're not speaking to you" treatment? You bet they did. But what did they care? Walmart took care of them. And I kid you not, that's why I hate term limits. They create lame ducks. In fact, the Republicans in the gang of 20 were lame ducks or close to it. I hope somebody explains that to the Texas Republicans, which is why I digressed and told you my favorite, or maybe unfavorite, lame duck story. Now, moving on. In a sharp rebuke to Governor Greg Abbott, also a Republican, Plank 21 strikes directly at Abbott's lockdown policies. Never again would Texas law allow any such thing, the plank states. Now we come to one of the most interesting planks, and one that the mainstream media totally overlooked. That would be plank 34, which calls for a state electoral college. According to this proposal, each state senatorial district would appoint a number of electors to elect all statewide office holders. You're talking about the governor, the lieutenant governor, the attorney general, the land commissioner, a lot of other commissioners that are elected statewide. Now, whether that would include United States senators, the language on the platform doesn't make clear. Presumably, the U.S. Constitution would supersede that. Now, I actually wrote an article that I called a model for state legislatures. In it, I called for apportionment of lower house representation by population among all units and to make sure that all districts stay within units. Equal suffrage in state senates for all units, and gubernatorial electoral colleges consisting of electors from each unit equal to the total delegation that unit sends to the legislature. Now, I hear it already. I know what you're going to say. Whiskey Tango Foxtrot is a unit. Oh, a unit in this context is a county, or they call them parishes in Louisiana, or a city independent of any county. Virginia has units of both kinds. Well, this state electoral college proposal comes pretty close to my original proposal, but there are two things wrong with it. First, it says nothing about how many electors each Senate district is going to send. Second, a Senate district depends on the legislature itself for its configuration. And that reconfiguration happens every 10 years with the census. But, I like the idea that Texas Republicans at least want to move away from having a governor of, by, and for the cities. Now, concerning abortion, the Texas Republican platform comes down solidly against abortion. Blank 36, makes an equal protection argument to protect the preborn. That's preborn. That's a word they prefer to the word unborn. The platform also proposes education on the humanity of the preborn child. Plank 116 specifically proposes a course of study, presumably for middle and high school, that emphasizes life-affirming definitions of life, that life begins at fertilization, and milestones of the development of the preborn child at 2-week intervals. Now, this course would also require use of fetal baby models as instructional materials and witnessing of a live ultrasound. Oh, what would that mean? They don't say, but it could mean a field trip to a prenatal care clinic with the consent of any patients involved to watch a fetal sonogram and the taking of it. The plank also refers to a video called Miracle of Life. Now that refers to an episode in Season 2, Episode 12 of the PBS television program Nova that aired in 1983. Separately, someone has uploaded a 12-minute video to YouTube in 2014. It has that same title. It's not the Nova episode, but it treats the same subject matter. I've left a link to it in the description. You'll love it. It has music by Hans Zimmer, who is one of the finest movie soundtrack composers out there. I mean, this guy is right up there with Bernard Herrmann. But I digress. Lastly, Plank 116 refers to a Woman's Right to Know booklet for high school students. Now, this almost certainly means the booklet by the Texas State Department of Health and Human Services. In 24 pages, it sets forth everything a woman needs to know about Texas law regarding pregnancy and childbirth. And I haven't left a link in the description, but I have put it into the article, so I have to link to the description to that. Now, planks 241 and 242 present a comprehensive response to concerns about elections and their fairness and security. Plank 241 lists 15 separate measures that address a variety of concerns. Some of them came up recently, but others, we've been talking about them for years. So, among other things, this plank recommends photo ID for all voters. Mail-in ballots to go only to those who ask for them, and then only to those who cannot vote in person, no matter what. Full signature verification for all mail-in ballots. Disallowing convicted felons from voting, absent a pardon from the governor, of course. And then moving along, withdrawal from the Electronic Registration Information Center, and adding staff to the Attorney General's office to investigate election crime allegations. So that's just 6. I said there were 15 in all. Now, Plank 242 addresses voter registration and the voter rolls. 9 separate measures address every concern anyone has addressed at all time, including the names of the dead and the move-outs staying on the voter rolls. Among other things, this plank would require checking the rolls against the lists of death certificates, that voters re-register after 5 years of not voting, photo ID and proof of residency and citizenship before you register, a 30-day deadline for registration, and repealing laws that automatically register someone to vote when they get a driver's license, the motor voter laws. The Texas Republican platform covers a wide variety of other issues. In no particular order, they include an anti-grooming measure, similar to the one that passed in Florida, but applicable through K-12, not just K-3. Having biological men compete with biological men and biological women with biological women in high school and college athletics. Interestingly, on that very weekend, the International Swimming Federation specifically made that an official rule for swimming competition. Forbidding medical practitioners to transition anyone 21 years old or younger. forbidding any taxpayer expenditure to transition prison inmates, active duty military, or anyone else. Abolishing any civil or criminal penalties for principled opposition to alternative lifestyle choices. Repealing the Federal Voting Rights Act, which continues to discriminate against certain states and localities. Repossessing all federal land except that on which any Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 structures rest. That means military bases, post offices, courthouses, city federal buildings, things like that. And you remember how that reads: forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, and other needful buildings. A uniform age of majority of 18, except for that older than 21 rule for gender transition. Nullifying certain Supreme Court rulings. Now, I'm sure you can guess which ones. And supporting new federal laws limiting the jurisdiction of the federal courts over state, especially over state law. Forbidding all gun-free zones, all public ones anyway, and presumably disestablishing present ones. Keeping marijuana illegal, withdrawing from the United Nations and various agencies and programs, and rejecting one world government. Full support for the State of Israel, including keeping the U.S. Ambassador's office in Jerusalem. So, at the end of the day, the Texas Republican Party clearly seeks to move the Overton window that defines acceptable public discourse and policy. It seems to have some of the mainstream media losing their minds. For that reason, mainstream reporters prefer to focus on incidentals and sensational content. While they do that, they refuse to address concrete proposals that address real problems that real people have. They include not only how people vote, but how a state chooses statewide office holders. The State Electoral College revision, it's one of the most innovative proposals I have ever seen in a major party platform. It's far from perfect, but it's better than what any state has today. I kid you not. Real progress will come, as the Texas nationalist movement suggests, from convincing people that these recommendations will be good for individual Texas residents and for Texas as a civilizational state or part of one. The TNM, of course, wants an independent Republic of Texas, but if that does not happen, Texas could, with this platform, become a model for all states to follow. And if it does happen, the platform set out the principles on which an independent Texas should run. Links in the description to the article, to the platform, to the Texas Independence Referendum Act, so you can tell just what it is they want people to vote on. That YouTube Miracle of Life video, and the conservative news and views. I have another link in the link to the awesome online store and to BitNext, as I also mentioned. And if you like what you've heard, you can like this video and subscribe to this channel. This is Terry A. Hurlbut delivering another declaration of truth and reminding you to let the truth set you free.